going to go ask him because that's a crazy price.
Yeah, $42. It is a thrift store, but that is neat looking.
Hi, I'm George the Antique Nomad. Come with me as I wander the country in search of valuable vintage, amazing antiques, and cool collectibles. We'll buy, sell, and trade at antique malls, shops, and shows, estate sales, flea markets, thrift stores, anywhere people go to find really interesting things that just aren't made anymore. So come on, let's go! Hello, it's George the Antique Nomad, and I'm glad to be back with you for more thrifting. My cousin and I hit a big strip of thrift stores in Largo, Florida. There's so many in such a short area that it took 2 episodes to get all of this to you. So thanks for joining again. And speaking of joining, if you're not yet a subscriber, please click that subscribe button below. It doesn't cost you anything, but it does help us with YouTube quite a lot, and we really appreciate it. And you can also click the bell to be notified of future videos so you don't miss anything. Now on with the show.
The land of red chandeliers. These are really great out of the 60s and 70s. You don't really see red very often. These are priced around a couple hundred a piece, which I think is fair for what they are because the color is so unusual. Sailor Girl coat tray. I've never owned that one. She's hard to find in good shape. She's priced at $65, which is fair for the condition. She is missing a little bit of paint. And then this gal you see a lot. It's in very clean condition, only $25. It's from 1950. Neat little mandolin. That's pretty cool. Mandolins are fun to play and fun as wall hangers. This one's more of a wall hanger because it's got a big crack in it. Probably dates to the 1920s. It's only $45. I found one in a basement in Seattle once that was a marlin, and it was in better condition than this but needed some work, and it sold for $300 as is. Here's our bittersweet ewer with the long poled handle by Ellie Smith. And the Lane of California flying mallard TV lamp. These came in different styles with different bases. This one's $35. This is cool. I believe this is crewel work, and look at the detail in this. I see why they framed it and hung it. This is probably something someone's grandmother made in the 1920s or 30s. Look at all the close threading and the detail here. I'm sorry, there's a little reflection. We'll get to the side again so you can see the whole thing. That is really beautiful. Now it's priced at $300, so you'd have to really love it. You can see where you can design a whole room around those colors. That's really cool. Neat Lazy Susan out of California. There's a couple of extra fruit trays. Usually they're missing stuff rather than having extras. This is Honig of California, and it's probably the most famous thing that they made. I see these in pink as well. $55. Hard to find with all the pieces intact. It's hard to get back from some of this furniture, but they've got everything from Victorian to 1920s English. This is a turn of the century American piece. I like the curvature of the top drawers, and you know, it's only $285. Again, if you like antique furniture, it's a good time to be buying. Prices are low, especially in Florida, where a lot of the houses don't seem appropriate for this, but you know, one piece as an accent in a room can be a lot of fun. We see these from the 70s. Little parts and bits and bobs made up into the design of cars. This one is supposed to be a 1908 Ford Model E, which was right before the Ford Model T. And you can see they made it of everything from a turning key from an old can of Spam to a thimble, little hinges and brads. There's an artist called Kirsch who did a lot of these. This is half off, so $32.50. It's worth it just for the keys. Skeleton keys are another thing that are fun to display on a board because if you have an interesting collection, you can see them all together and see the variation. Some nice 1920s prints. We have for $45 one of these wall mirrors with the shelf unit in it that were popular about 1960. They're great for display. It's nice to have the reflectivity, and it's something other than a china cabinet. Washstand bowl and pitcher on a washstand, as it would have originally been presented. That's how they would have set up in bedrooms where you didn't have your own indoor plumbing yet. I like that they put when something is new so that if you haven't been in for a while, you know what the fresh stock is. Some cool old locks. People like to collect these now. Now here's a cool desk. We're going to inspect it to see if we can figure out what the age is. It's got carving. The painting, I think, was done later. But I really think this was actually done later in the 20th century. But it sure has the style of old. Look at the carved birds. A lot of these were made in Indonesia and Asian countries starting in the 1960s. But it's really got incredible carving down below. You got to respect their work. Some sort of an old... What are you? Not sure what that device does. It presses, it folds, it mutilates. Somebody made this guy in the 1970s, the carved owl with the clock in his belly. Now $150. So, you know, all that time Dad spent in the garage ignoring you was worth it. Some old copper luster pictures here. These are early 19th century. These used to sell for a lot, but I think a lot of our collectors for these are no longer with us and people don't get it. But these really are old. These are from the 1840s and 50s. And they were a big deal because you could have something shiny and bright in your house that looked like some expensive metal. And that was new to people in the Victorian era. By the 1950s, people were liking these dragonware pieces out of Japan. It was like the Moriaga ware of an earlier era, but the dragons were a very popular motif. These little tea sets, this one's at $45. They seem like they've always sold for about $45 as long as I've been in the business. Some fun shell collections in frames. We see this in Florida a lot. This 1940s era chair has the swan handles for the arms. That's kind of cute. Oh, and here we go. Seattle World's Fair Space Needle decanter. Priced at $20. If it was a little less than that, I would send it back home. This pattern is Liberty Blue. This was done for the bicentennial. It was sold in grocery stores. You'd get a few pieces as a starter set, and then you could buy the completer pieces as they came out. It's well marked. Made by Johnson Brothers in England, which is kind of appropriate considering that all the dinnerware during the American Revolution was made in Staffordshire in England. The Staffordshire potteries really relied on our business, and they were anti-war in England. They were amongst the group saying we should not be fighting with our own citizens. We should let them start their own country and see how they do. Strawberry shortcake. Sure, a lot of you 80s babies remember these. Full of your juice. And full of sweet surprises, as is life, according to that motto. This is a 1960s Italian decanter set with the painted florals in the middle. This should glow under a black light. It's got the artist's signature there. Franciscan Desert Rose. It's so amazing to me to see these crescent salad plates only selling for $10. These used to sell for about $60 or $70. I think this was still worth about $25 online. It's probably worth buying. But since I don't have a lot of other Desert Rose right now, that was one of the first things when I got in the business. I bought a ton of Desert Rose, a huge collection, and it all sold right away. It was so popular then. This pattern is beautiful in my opinion. This is one of the first things, the first day I worked in an antique mall, someone asked me if there was blue caprice, and I said, well, I think there's one in the parking lot, and they laughed. And then they saw a piece and said, let me tell you what blue caprice is. This is blue caprice. Cambridge Glass of Ohio made this pattern. It's elegant depression glass, so it's better quality than regular depression glass. It's thicker and heavier. They made a lot of really nice pieces. It has this shell motif. It's a beautiful color. Prices have come down on this, so it's a great thing to collect now. The little nut trays here are $10 each. The luncheon plates are $15. $20 on the divided relish, $25 on the cream and sugar set with the tray. 30 years ago, these would have all sold for double that. If you like this sort of thing, it's a good time to be picking it up. Royal Delft. Delft is an area that produces, and Delft Blau, or blue, is what we're mostly associating with them, but they made other colors too, and there's one now, priced at $100. And then this piece in the middle here, with the pheasant, is a vase that's turned upside down, but it's an interesting shape that way. The Blackamoor television lamp is a cool one that's hard to find from the 50s. And I think I'm going to get this. You don't see a lot of Gerald Ford buttons. He only ran for president once. He was president because Nixon resigned, of course. And this is when Agnew resigned and Gerald Ford was made vice president. So this is an unusual button you don't see long. It didn't last long. He was inaugurated as vice president at the end of 1973, and by the middle of 1974 he was the president of the United States. The only unelected president we've ever had. Stengel pottery is really cool, and here's Terra Rose. This is $25. It's a good price. These used to sell for a lot more. I think people just don't see them anymore. Made in Trenton, New Jersey. And I believe Flemington also, they have the factory there. And Terra Rose is one of many patterns. They were mainly known for their hand-painted floral dinnerware and their hand-painted bird figurines. And then these are Danish. These are silver plate, but I like the bicolor stuff. We did a lot in this country too. Rogers did a lot of bicolored, where the inside is a colored enamel. It was very popular in the late 60s. I think it's a neat look. And in Victorian times, color lithography was new, and Home Sweet Home was definitely something that you saw on color litho. And there is the gentleman with his wife, the 2 children, the baby, and the dog, all enjoying the pleasures of home. These days, a lot of us are a little sick of Home Sweet Home, I would say. NGK spark plugs. This is the Cave, and the Cave is having a 50% off sale. He's got some cool stuff. This is neat. It's an old hotel phone, but this is European, and the problem for us selling these here is that they won't work on the American exchanges. It does show something interesting about the history of phones, though. Originally, you had to crank to get the operator. But then when they added direct dialing, they would just take the old phones and stick a dial on the phone, because phones were expensive to make, and so they didn't want to have to make a brand new phone, especially as pretty as this was. So they just took it back to the factory, stuck a dial on it, and then you had your phone and you could direct dial. So that makes it kind of neat. And this would have been a hotel phone because this would have lit so that you knew that something was going on, and you could press a button and send the call elsewhere in the hotel. Here's a Bausch & Lomb spotlight from the 1930s, another cool piece. Neat old cash register here, although it's seen better days. It would clean up, and it's a cool look. After the hunt, drink Budweiser. Don't do it beforehand, because something bad might happen. Sleds. It's always funny to me to see sleds in Florida. I'm not sure why they thought they needed to bring those with them. It has snowed once in St. Petersburg in recorded history, and it didn't even leave a trace on the beach. This is a seed row maker from the 1920s. It's upside down, so you can't quite see how it works. Somebody's shadow box. It says it's from a bar in Wyoming. Anyway, they've got cool stuff in here. It's a fun store. I'll have to come back. Got a couple of tin types in the case, a nice pair of epaulettes. trench art down there. That's kind of cool. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Nice jadeite little blotter there too. I have to find out about that. Well, cool. For $20, I like the little jadeite. He's a Scotty, actually, not a horse.
Hey, he is.
Yeah. Yeah, he's cute. He's in.
Now he's even cuter.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. He's an ink blotter. I always like these things. No one uses them much anymore, but they're cool. So while I'm thinking of it, please comment in the space below here and also hit the thumbs up button to like this video. If you haven't subscribed, click the subscribe button below. Also hit the bell below to be notified of new videos coming every Monday and Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern. And thank you so much for following along. Let's go back to this video. All right, well, we believe in liberty, so we are at the Liberty thrift store with our masks on, so some liberty. I guess we're all doing what we have to these days. And they are having a lot of sales. They are not accepting donations. A lot of places aren't right now. They're processing all the stuff that everyone went through during the lockdown. Syracuse China dish set. Syracuse still, I believe, makes restaurant ware, but they did the federal shape back in the Second World War era. And it was thinner, but better quality in terms of being closer to porcelain, and they did a lot of china in that time, and some really pretty patterns. So a lot of people aren't really aware of their patterns, unless it's the railroad china and that sort of thing. Lots of clothes here. My cousin is the rag picker, and I only notice accessories and things, although I know you're looking for sports stuff. Ah, Ben Roethlisberger. There's a Ben Roethlisberger shirt over there, if that matters.
Price is horrible.
Oh. Cool, though. Durgan Park Dining. Whoops. This is Anchor Hawking, signed by I. Wilson. It looks like it was professionally decorated. It's got a carnival sheen and hand painting. So where was that again? Down there?
Right there. I'm going to go ask him because that's a crazy price.
Yeah, $42. It is a thrift store, but that is neat looking. It's a cool crock, but it's not that old, and it's certainly not selling for $50 on eBay. That means they looked up an asking price. And then these are salt dips. They're fairly utilitarian style at 50 cents a piece, and they're older because they've turned lavender now. Lavender is what happens when you put glass in the sun, and it means it had manganese in it. Basic glass was only done with manganese until the First World War, but then in the Second World War, the elegant companies had to get rid of the manganese, so elegant glass had it longer. Utensils. Sometimes we find Bakelite in here, but I don't see any. Oh, this is kind of cool. These are Benson and Hedges. That was my dad's brand.
This is?
Yeah, I think so because of this. I'm sure I recognize this because he smoked this stuff the whole time I was growing up. But it's the light ones. Yeah, the Castle was Benson and Hedges. Yeah, somebody would probably buy those. Cigarette advertising stuff sells. This guy is cool. He's from the 70s. He's when people were using burl and then putting that sort of plastic coat on it and making clocks. But the reason he's fun is because he's Woodsy Owl. Woodsy Owl said, "Join me, give a hoot, don't pollute." That was his slogan, and it was right in the early 70s when environmentalism started to be more of a thought and the idea of just throwing your trash on the ground wasn't cool anymore. They developed him as a logo to get kids to be a little more aware of the environment and what they were doing to it.
Good idea, because I just want to be sure you're not casing place.
No, I promise.
No.
So at the last minute going out the door, they had a 75% off stand, and this
75?
is a nice little piece of Red Wing marked on the bottom. And since I just got a collection of Red Wing, it'll be nice to put it with it. Okay, so we're going to an actual Goodwill. Haven't been to a Goodwill in a while, and we'll see. Some of the ones in Florida have turned into dollar stores where everything's new, but this one says it takes donations, so hopefully there's some old stuff in here. Okay, so there are a lot of new things, but I do see used clothes. Okay, a lot of new hats. A lot of new art.
Yeah, when I
Well, there's a big old vibrant comforter, but again, yeah, a lot of the stuff in here really does look new. I mean, I see a few old pieces of furniture. Let's look in the housewares and see if they've got anything old over here. Kitchen appliances. Of course, we expect these to be newer, and there's newer and newer used. Here we go. This looks like maybe more my kind of stuff. But again, not really seeing anything with age. Except the bottom of a butterprint Pyrex bowl. Here we go. $2.98 is certainly a good price, and the condition is good. The question is whether I have a lid this size for it, and I don't think I do. Now, you could certainly buy it and hold it aside and wait for a lid to come along, but you also could end up with a whole house full of stuff you're waiting for stuff to come along for, and I've done that before, so I think I'm going to just leave it. Someone else can do it and make the money. I'd like to see a whole bunch of this. 2 pieces won't do, though. Here's the Corel Cornflower Blue. My understanding is they had to re-engineer these handles. There was a recall because they would break off under the weight of the piece when they first made them in the early 70s. Plastic was not really as widespread in consumer products until that time, and some of it wasn't good quality at first. Took them a while. Here's what we're seeing a lot of at Goodwills now. Stuff that's just leftovers, stuff they can reorder. I mean, honestly, I go to Dollar General for this kind of thing. I don't really need it in Goodwill. I wish they would stick to old stuff and donated goods, but, you know, they've got to run their business, and I've got to run mine. Hello Kitty, trying to get you to drink 8 glasses of water. I don't know that Hello Kitty is old in this case, but it did come out in 1976, and was very popular when I was a kid. We are at the Salvation Army. This is our last attempt for the day because the Goodwill, well, they didn't have anything.
there's definitely a lot of plants.
This always makes me think of Fatbird Finds when I see cute little blue birds. Kentucky bluebirds. What lies behind you and what lies in front of you pales in comparison to what lies inside of you. Well, Waldo Emerson. That's very good for us to remember these days. More Fallscraft, Yorktown. They like to color code things here, so all the blues are in one area. Here's some Steubenville leaf. This was a company that Russell Wright also did patterns for, and so you'll recognize the colors because the glazes are the same as the Russell Wright, but this was a leaf pattern that was more traditional, also 1950s. Silver plate, I do not have much of a call for personally. If I thought I saw sterling in there, I'd get excited. These are nice. These have a little bit of flow blue aspect to them. It's a nice tazza or compote, but it's got a big chip in it. Right there. And for $24.99, can't do the big chips. This one is Dresden porcelain mark, but I believe that's actually out of Ohio. There was a company that marked its wares Dresden to sound like the German. Here's the other one. These are going to date to about 1900. This one is in better shape. So for someone buying it for their own use, $24.99 is a good deal. It's not really strong flow blue, so I don't think I would have a customer for it, but it's pretty. Don't see anything old in the book section. It's always worth looking though. Most books aren't worth much, but there's a few maybe for an illustrator or certain topics like early children's books, murder mysteries. Some of those have good value. Ooh, schmaltzy. Gilded ceramic. Ah, this one's made in China, so that one is not old, but the ceramic one is from about 1970, and that one weighs a ton. That means it's going to be resin, so it's new too. And these are older. That is the mark of Stetson China from Illinois. They did the Rio pattern. that I like so well that looks like bark cloth, but this was a simpler transfer pattern from the 50s. Cute, but $55 for that is just too much money for me to do anything with. The traditional spinning wheel lamp from the 1960s. And like most spinning wheels, it's kind of in pieces, but you could put it back together again. It's a pretty authentic design in this case. I think it would even work. It's got all the spindles, all the various harps, so it is a cute design. Because a lot of people these days don't know what a spinning wheel is about, they're not really in demand anymore though.
Thanks for joining me again in the world of antiques and collecting. I had a lot of fun going thrifting with you, and we're glad that we got to take you along with us. I'm George the Antique Nomad, every day on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and I do Periscope videos as well, so we'll see you out there in social media land. Bye for now, and have fun. Thanks for joining me again in the fun and fascinating antique community, here where online meets the real world. Please click the subscribe button below, click the bell to be notified when new videos upload, leave a comment below, and hit thumbs up to like this video. Links to our online social media daily posts and our items for sale are in the description. This is George at the Antique Nomad. Bye for now.